Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. Quick info before we begin. Today's video has 2 stories and both of them have updates. Now let's get started. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user WorkPartyThrowaway77. An a-hole coworker, something male, sent my 36 female husband, 39 male, an inflammatory text during a work event. Now he's threatening leaving me. There was an after-work event this week. A coworker was leaving for another job and we were going out for light food and drinks. I don't drink, by the way. I didn't give my husband details because he usually doesn't ask nor appear to care that I attend these occasional outings, which usually end by 6 or 7 p.m. So, to help you get an understanding of what happened, this is kind of a text log. My husband says at 6 p.m, "You have that thing tonight, right? Need dinner after?" And I respond, "Should be out there by 8 and fed. No worries about dinner, times are estimates." And he responds, "Okay." Now, I didn't see the following messages until I took the train ride home at around 11 p.m. My husband says at 9:30 p.m, "Hey baby, everything okay? What's your status?" Then at 10:05 p.m. he says, "All good." And at 10:30 p.m. he says, "Hey, give me a ping, getting worried." And at 10:33 there's a message coming from my phone that says, "Hey buddy, chill the F out. She's in really good hands, I can assure you, winky face." I left my phone at the table and a whole coworker took it upon his drunk self to send that text. Yep, my old iPhone is not password protected, that's totally on me. And I didn't see any of my husband's texts because his notifications had been cleared when a whole coworker opened up my messages. I saw it as soon as I got on the train and texted him immediately, saying, "Babe, sorry, that was not me, see you when I get home." No response from my husband. When I got home, he was in bed. I kissed him on the cheek and he doesn't reciprocate. I asked him what was wrong and he said he didn't want to talk because he was afraid he'd say something he'd regret. The next day, he ghosted me all day until he finally approached me tonight and says that he felt extremely disrespected and is suspicious of my inattention. He said he wasn't keeping tabs on me but making sure I was okay since most of these after-work events wrap up by mid-evening. I profusely apologized and tried to defuse the situation, but he wasn't all that receptive. He said he was not sure what to think. He had total trust in me, but thinks something nefarious must have been happening for this guy to have my phone and feel bold enough to send that text. It was a lot of back and forth with no improvement. He finally dropped a serious bomb. He says he doesn't know what to think, but he said that if there's any hope of him believing this was as I say, as it actually happened, then I can't be, in his words, in the same effing room with that effer. No more after-work events, and if there's a work meeting where a whole coworker and I would coincide, he wants me to notify HR that there's a personal conflict. He's heated and said if I can't meet these demands, then I can either look for another job or a new husband. My choice. Everything is happening so fast. I know he's overreacting, but he does have his reasons. I have chewed out the a-hole coworker. I told him off and told him if he touched anything that belongs to me again, I'm going straight to the police. But what my husband is demanding is not practical. I guess I'm asking if I should risk waiting this out for cooler heads to prevail or meet my husband's demands, or if there is something I can do otherwise. I am pretty sure he thinks something happened that night. I think if he was assured it is what I say it is, he'd move past it. But I can see from his perspective it looks like crap. Well, OP, I agree with you and I disagree with you. I agree with you that from his perspective it looks like crap, and I disagree with you that he's overreacting. I mean, based on the information that you gave us, your husband was about 2 to 3 hours just wondering where you were, really worried. And I'm pretty sure he wasn't thinking, "Oh, she's having an affair." No, he was scared that something might have happened to you. And then your a-hole coworker sends that message, of course he's gonna be pissed. Personally, I don't think he thinks you're cheating or anything like that, because what kind of an affair partner would be stupid enough to send that message? So for the sake of argument, let's assume that you are not cheating. Then my main question would be, why didn't you let your husband know that you were gonna stay there longer? That's all it would have taken. Just 15 seconds to write a message around 8 p.m. saying something like, "Hey babe, I'm gonna stay around 2 hours more, just letting you know, I'll be home later. I'll let you know when I'm on my way." Now, here's what I would do if I was in your shoes. Your husband is half right in his measures. I think you do need to go to HR and explain that there is a problem. And I would say that as a minimum, a whole coworker should face your husband and apologize for his idiocy. And what do you guys think about this whole mess? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes, and how would you feel if you were OP's husband? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they had to say about this whole thing. Deleted says, wait, how did you not think to text your husband sooner? You were supposed to be out by 8 and the event ran much longer, which happens, but 1. Why did you not think to send him a heads-up message earlier? 2. How was your phone, regardless of passwords, more accessible to your coworker than to you? 3. Why would this coworker randomly decide to send this message to your husband, knowing he'd have to see you after the fact? And 4. What the hell happened that made the event run so long? Sorry if this seems paranoid, but this post seems like it might be an attempt at an alibi. Too many questions spring up from it, and I'd love to see some responses. And OP responds, quote, why did you not think to send him a heads-up message earlier? End quote. This has pretty much been the main topic of our conversation today. I lost track of part of the night and didn't see his messages until I went to text him on the train. I effed up and assumed his easy-go attitude about these things meant that he didn't need me to check in, so I didn't think to, and time just got away from me. Now I realize how stupid that was, because up until that text, I am sure he was legitimately worried and not thinking something was up. After that text, a different story. The event didn't run long. I usually leave around mid-evening because I don't drink and get bored. There is no alibi. I was at the pub the entire time. My phone was on the table after probably checking Facebook, and I got distracted and moved tables to talk to some of my other work friends. Cotodrome says, I hate to be that one jerk, but I don't believe your story. You said the message was sent at 10:33. Okay, so we have that as an absolute fact. You told them you would be back around 8. Another fact. But you go on to say that you hadn't checked your phone at all for several hours, you were late and had no idea of the time, but you also claimed that you left your phone on the table after checking Facebook or something. I don't know about anyone else, but I don't believe you could have been on Facebook or whatever without noticing the time. I maybe, just maybe, would have been able to believe you if you were drunk, but the fact that you said you don't drink, I can't believe the story at all, and honestly, I'm not surprised your husband doesn't either. Collector of Things says, I would hardly say he's overreacting. There's no reason to dismiss his feelings. I assure you that you would just be as pissed if you were in his exact shoes. If he told you he was coming home at 8, then you text him 3 times between then and 11, and then you get some random text like that from another woman, yeah, I already know how that's going to go. Surely, if you were in his shoes and had no idea what was going on, you would understand that your explanations make no sense. I'm not saying it didn't happen exactly like you said it did, but it's just very sketchy. You ran 2.5 hours late already and you hadn't checked your phone during that time, nor did you shoot a text to say you decided to stay out late. And then somehow your coworker has control over your phone without you knowing. Typically, the mass majority of people make it a habit to have their phones on them at all times. If you get up to go to the restroom or bar, you put the phone in your pocket or purse and bring it with you. Or leave your purse with a trustworthy friend who can watch it. From his view, it is very, very sketchy. Even though it seems bizarre to you because you know what happened, it's still worth analyzing his side of this whole ordeal. Additional information from OP's comments. I thought about getting my coworker to call my husband, but I can see him either thinking the call is meaningless because we're scamming him, or he'd fly off the handle because I was in direct contact with him. He's 100% adamant about me never having any contact with him ever again. I know this sounds controlling, but he's never acted this way, and I think what happened has given him a good reason. If a woman texted me that crap, I'd be out of my mind pissed. So really, I have no problem never seeing this guy ever again. If that means no after-work get-togethers, which rarely happen anyway, then fine by me. I can probably get my supervisor filled in and help limit my contact. Beyond that, there's not much I can do except rebuild trust. Alright, so split opinions. Some people are berating OP, some people don't believe OP, and some people think OP is being really sketchy. But they all raised some great points, so I went back to the text. And the only way that I can see that OP's theory would make sense is if she checked Facebook right before 9:30 p.m. and that's when she left her phone on the table to go talk to her friends. Meaning that she left her phone unattended close to under an hour and a half, considering, let's say, a 10-minute walk from the bar to the train station. So now I ask you guys another question. Do you think that's what happened, or is there something else going on? Anyways, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends, but of course before that, here's another one of my playlists for you to enjoy after this video. Now, let's move on with that update. I spoke to my boss first thing Wednesday morning and told him what happened. While he was not at the bar, he knew about the event. Later in the morning, he spoke to a whole coworker and I didn't hear anything else during the workday. I also told a friend at work what happened. She was there and can vouch for me being at the bar. Without me asking, she decided to get a whole coworker on a conference call and called my husband and had a whole coworker apologize for what he did. I don't know exactly what was said and had no idea this call had been made until I got home later in the evening. My husband gave me a big hug when I arrived and told me about the call. He said that throughout the day he had already concluded that it was a crap prank by a drunk a-hole. As someone touched on in the comments, the idea that someone I was cheating with would send that text was so absurd that it must have been a prank. He said that the call was helpful, but warned me he laid into a-hole pretty good, telling him what turmoil he caused and straight up telling the guy to stay as far away from his wife as professionally possible or he would make sure his career is impacted. We talked for hours and he reinforced some expectations going forward. Simple stuff like giving him a heads up if I'm late. He will do the same. Pass protecting my phone and generally keeping on guard around people in general. I think we're about 95% back to normal. This week was kind of a shock and I think we're both a little fatigued from all the drama and plan to spend the entire weekend together. I am at work and there's no conflict. He's here but no direct apology yet. But the day is young and honestly, I don't care to have any contact with this guy in the future. Sorry I didn't respond more to the original thread, but it kind of turned into a crap show of picking apart my alibi. I agree, it did look odd that I didn't realize the time or didn't look at my phone for 3 hours as some claimed. I did have an idea about the time, I did look at my phone during the evening, but I didn't think to check in because during that time I felt like I was always on my way out. I dropped my phone on the table at some point before the text and moved to another table to chat with a few coworkers and say goodbye. I got distracted and didn't get to my phone until after the text had been sent. At 8 p.m. I know I should have checked in, but it skipped my mind. Thanks to those who voiced their opinions about not having a cell phone strapped to your body every minute of the day. I am pretty notorious for putting it in my purse and missing half the calls I receive. Also, I think the next time we meet for drinks after work, I'm going to invite my husband. He is very social and talkative and would get along with everyone for sure. Alright, well, apparently OP with the help of a coworker friend were able to clear up this whole thing and she was able to talk to her husband and set something straight. So I'm gonna call this a happy update, OP. You were able to communicate with your husband and resolve this whole thing. Good for you. So here's wishing you both the best in the future. Thank you so much for sharing, and now let's move on to the next post that, like I said, also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user Throwaway and a lot of numbers. Am I the a-hole for not giving my sister her wedding dress because she didn't invite my underage son? I, 40 male, have a sister, 30 female, who is getting married in a week. The groom proposed to her a year ago at a family dinner that left everyone speechless, but very happy for them as they are longtime companions. During this dinner, my sister asked my son, 17 male, to make her a wedding dress. My son has always loved design and fashion. He took technical courses in these areas and sewing, and even his friends keep asking for his clothes because they are so beautiful. He agreed, but said that he needed time and that he would need her opinion constantly. At first, my sister was very annoying. My son drew about 50 dress designs in a month and she only liked one, which he continued with. He sewed it with great quality fabric, which I paid for as I wanted to get involved in a certain way. For 5 months, he made several adjustments to suit her wishes as she always complained about something. After a while, he arrived at the final model and it was just amazing. My mother cried seeing my sister in the dress, and I confess that I almost got emotional too. The problem was that last week my son came to talk to me about the wedding invitation that had not arrived for him, but for other family members. I thought maybe he didn't need one, but it still felt weird. I messaged my sister raising this issue and she replied that she didn't want any underage people at her wedding because there would be alcohol. I asked if she was going to make an exception for my son, but she cut me off and said no. There are no children in our family. My son is the only minor, so I don't see any sense in this rule for family members. And to make matters worse, my son was very sad and cried because he spent months on this dress and couldn't go to the wedding. I was very upset and told my sister that she should look for another dress as soon as possible, as she would no longer wear the one my son made. She called and yelled at me, saying I was being unreasonable and that I couldn't do this. My mother called me saying I should deliver the dress and follow the rules, but I didn't and hung up on her. Because of this, the family is divided. Many agree with me and condemn my sister's actions, saying she could only make an exception, but another part says I'm unreasonable and I'm spoiling her big day. I don't think I'm being wrong, but just rational and paying her back in kind. So, am I the a-hole? Well, in my opinion, no, you are not the a-hole. You are standing up for your son, and that is exactly the right thing to do. And your sister, well, she's just being ridiculous and is most definitely the a-hole in this whole situation. I mean, she's singling out your son because he's 17 and she doesn't want minors near alcohol. That's such a weird rule, and also, I'm sure your son wouldn't be stupid enough to try to get alcohol from the wedding where everybody knows him and can identify him as a minor. And that's just the sketchy part. The horrible part is that she asked him to make her wedding dress, and he did. He poured his heart and soul and really did a great job and tending to what she wanted. And this is how she shows her appreciation for the job that your son did? No, she does not deserve to wear your son's dress. So in summary, OP, no, you're not the a-hole. Your sister is, and you're doing right by your son. And what do you guys think about this whole situation? What is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they had to say. Financially Broke Hoot says, not the a-hole. The aunt effed around and found out, shouldn't mess with the dressmaker. But whatever you do, charge her for the dress. It's priceless, sure. The problem is, you're setting precedents for your relatives in place of your son. Now, a lot of your relatives are gonna expect a free wedding dress because it happened once. Yes, your son is still learning. Yes, you paid for the fabric. It's still worth months of his work, his labor. Whether or not you give the dress to her, charge her, especially since she was difficult to work with. Go to small claims courts if you have to so that your son won't be taken advantage of in the future. And OP responds, I'll talk to him and suggest it, but I'm not sure he'll agree. Trelena Sakuyo says, not the a-hole, but your sister definitely is. She doesn't want her almost adult nephew who designed and made her dress at her wedding because there would be alcohol? I could understand if she didn't want to make an exception for a friend or even a cousin. Making an exception for her only minor nephew, especially given that she could have pointed him out when people asked about the dress, would have been not only understandable but practically obligatory to anyone hearing about the circumstances. I have to wonder if she was even planning on letting anyone know who was the designer and tailor of the dress. Alien Overlord 1001 says, not the a-hole. She is not a nice person. Happy to use him for a free custom-made dress, but made up a rule to exclude just one person in the family. Even at a licensed venue, it's a private function and no one is going to be doing ID checks. And at 17, he is old enough to know not to drink. This is just nasty. Your son sounds awesome, and I'm sure he could get someone to model the dress to get some pictures. Plano Chubby Boy says, take some pictures of the dress and post them on Instagram and Facebook. Availability to the highest bidder. Make her suffer realizing that someone else will get to wear the gorgeous gown your son designed. Who knows, he might get discovered by Yves Saint Laurent or Armani. Okay, well, the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole and they gave OP some ideas about what to do with the dress. So now it's time to move on with the update to see how the story ends. First, I would like to thank you for all the comments and suggestions. I really didn't expect my post to resonate so much. So I talked to my son about the suggestions you guys gave me and he agreed to sell the dress at Marketplace. He calculated the price of everything and the value was quite high, something around $22,000 to $25,000. We sent the proposal to my sister and she hated it. She said she couldn't afford it because it was too expensive and it should be a gift because she's family. I responded by saying that it was too easy to say she was family to get a free dress, but not enough to include my son. Yeah, the person who made it. She cried on the call and begged me not to ruin her day, but I didn't call because that to me was BS. At no point did she offer to just let my son go or apologize for it. And for anyone who said that maybe she's homophobic, I'm not sure, but I think who could be influencing her is her fiance, who is a Christian and has never been close to my son. However, I don't care if he's doing it or not. If she wants to include my son from this event, then she will also be cutting ties with me. And for those who are asking for a photo of the dress, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but my son didn't agree and unfortunately I won't post it because of that. If anything else happens, I'll let you know. Until then, thank you all. Final update 1 week later. Sorry for the delay, but it's been a busy week. Many family members skipped my sister's wedding and decided to have a party at a cousin's house instead of attending the wedding. My sister is obviously very upset and has cut us all of her social media. She got another dress to get married, but everyone thought it was cheap compared to what she was going to wear. And I would also like to inform you that someone already bought the dress that my son made. It was for a good price and that'll help him cover his college costs. There's not much more to say, but I'd like to just make this final point to let you guys know. Alright, well I guess your sister got the wedding she deserved. Sucks for her, but anyways, good for you guys. I mean, you guys had an awesome party apparently, and your son sold the dress for enough money to cover some college costs. That's awesome. So here's wishing you all the very best in the future, OP, and thank you so much for sharing. Take care. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.